All right, guys. You know, there comes a point every season where this happens, and I feel like this season it's happened more than once. But there's just nothing to explain. Me and Chris, we've been absent for a little bit, and that's okay. But there's a lot to talk about, and we only have 40 minutes because we're not paying for the premium Zoom anymore. Chris, I'll let you open up with some wise words.
Yeah, maybe this is just our new bit now. I kind of like that we kind of just come and go until something sticks. So
Yeah,
that's just our new thing now.
it's a great way to build up a loyal fan base is just get on a constant schedule and then just leave for two
Yep.
months and they don't say a word and then just come back. Full spirited though. Like this is the most excited I've been to talk Wolves
Yeah,
ever, maybe.
there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on that we oftentimes tend to go on our hiatuses right when something happens too.
Or no,
So
right before something
right before
happens.
something
Yes.
happens. So
And
like
then
we
we
did
don't
it.
come back.
Yeah, we did it before the Gobert trade. I think was our biggest one. Like we left at the start of the summer, and then the Gobert trade went through, and we talked about it a couple times. But so the biggest roster shakeup, of course, just happened. Trading away D'Lo. D'Lo was having his best season this season. I mean, averaging 18 points per game, getting us back into a lot of ball games. Like I remember the Warriors game, especially was the biggest one where it seemed like nothing was going right, and then D'Lo sinks 4 3-pointers in a row, and we're right back into it. So it's an interesting era, I think, that D'Lo played a part in Timberwolves basketball because this season was great, but I think the two seasons before this one previously, I think D'Lo might have been the most divided player, maybe even in the NBA. Like he has fans that love him, he has fans that hate him, and I think Peyton and I try to draw the line in the sand of like there is some middle ground for D'Angelo Russell, and this season especially, I think there's no reason to look at D'Lo in a bad light. I think he really played well. I mean, he averaged what we wanted him to average at the beginning of the season when we were still doing podcasts. We were like, I think we said something around like the 18 point per game range on good efficiency, and he delivered that in the first half of the season. I think that's partially why we got 3 first round picks and Nikhil Alexander Walker on top of
Not
Mike
not
Conley,
first, not first.
or second round
Yeah, that's
picks.
a big difference.
Sorry, there is a big difference about
But
that.
yeah,
Attribute
and
that to the blue moon.
hey, no worries. In regards to that, man, yeah, I think he's the most. I think polarizing would be a good way to describe him as a player. Like you said, you either love him or you hate him. I was never fully set on my thoughts on him. Honestly, there was times when I defended him, and then there was also times where I was like, "This guy, like, what are we doing?" The effort thing is sometimes he just doesn't look like he's trying. At times, he plays a little slower game. But overall, I think he made a positive impact on his time with the Wolves. And also, I think that polarization or polarity, I don't know the correct way of saying that, is going to be magnified in LA. He might become the most hated player in NBA history if he goes on to be unofficial. If his season goes downhill with the Lakers, I
Oh
think.
yeah, I mean the Lakers are on every morning talk show. I mean, you look at Skip and Shannon, you look at the Herd with Colin Cowherd. Every single day, there's a segment on the Los Angeles Lakers. So I mean, we kind of saw how the Russell Westbrook situation played out. I don't really think he was as bad as people
No,
made him
not even
seem.
close. Not even
And
close.
you know, Russ is a former MVP, averaged a triple double
Yeah.
in a season. I mean, like
Not too long ago either. Not too long ago.
no,
That was pretty recent.
No, guys, a phenomenal player. Like took this role, went off the bench this year. Almost was up for, I think, potentially up for six man of the year, averaging 17, 18 points per game. He gets shipped off. Probably going to be bought out by the Jazz and maybe go to the Clippers, Bulls. I think were some teams that came up, but yeah, I mean, honestly, the Los Angeles Timber Lakers now with
Or
Malik
the
Fitting.
Minneapolis Lakers, you could call them.
Yeah, you could call them that, and it's interesting because like I think there was a perception of like their time here last year, like we were really like bought into them and we saw them exit in the first round, but now all of a sudden like the narrative last year was like they're too young, too inexperienced, not good enough, but now this year at the trade deadline, getting Malik Vando and D'Lo for them is now they're complete. They're a championship caliber team. So it's interesting to see how the narrative shift from Minnesota to Los Angeles.
Yeah, dude. I was watching a clip that our good friend Dane Moore posted on Twitter, uh where it
The
was
man.
them talking about Vanderbilt. You saw that where they're
Yeah.
like they were just hyping him up. I don't know who it was. I think it was a Clark Kellogg. or a very famous NBA announcer. Maybe I think it was the guy from 2K. I don't know who that is, but they were just talking about his energy, just loving how he was playing, and it was like, there you go. Now he finally gets that spotlight, and people finally get to see how great of a player he is, and they also get to see that he can't make a right-handed layup. But yeah, I think the Los Angeles Lakers, dude, they killed. Like, I might become a Lakers fan, honestly. Like, they have everything that I loved about the Timberwolves last year, besides Ant is on the Lakers right now. So
Yeah, it was a really good deadline for the Lakers. I mean, I think the big thing was they coveted those 2027, 2029, first rounders, and they only had to give up one of them. They got Rui Hachimura at the deadline too, which I thought was a good move for them. And then they get three core players from the Timberwolves playoff run last year. So I don't know if the Lakers will be a championship caliber team, but they're going to be one of the teams the Timberwolves might have to play in the play-in. So
yeah,
it'll be
shit.
interesting.
So
That will be really interesting.
So we looked at it from the Lakers perspective, but how about from the Timberwolves perspective? Because I mean, we did make some trading away one of your core players like D'Angelo Russell. I mean, that's going to shake up your team. So what do you think about it, Chris?
Yeah, there's a couple angles to attack this from, and I think like a lot of people have talked about it already. I think I don't know if you heard about it, but you keep the salary slot. You're extending D'Lo's just half season since we're already over the salary cap line. If you would have lost D'Lo's $30 million contract, you wouldn't have been able to sign a player for $30 million in this offseason because we're already over the cap. But you're able to extend this cap space that D'Lo had with Mike Conley now, who signed not only through this year but the end of next year. So you can move that space that you would have lost in free agency with D'Lo. So you get to keep another player, over the cap line with that space. So I think that's a positive. I think 3 second round picks was a really big positive. I mean, if you watch the deadline, I think like 5 second round picks was the trade package for a good role player. You saw that happen a ton. You saw that happen with Gary Payton Jr. and a few others. But also, I think the Mike Conley angle of this, I think you can look at it from a variety of ways too. I mean, the Jazz had the best offense in the NBA last year, best offensive rating, most points per game, and they weren't the number one seed in the West, but they were the number 4 seed and had a home playoff series. They did ultimately lose to the Mavericks, but Rudy and Mike Conley were a very good pairing last year, offensive rating wise. So I think the Timberwolves are trying to kind of scrounge up some of that magic that they didn't have with D'Angelo and Rudy. I don't think that pairing was very well. There's a couple articles. I can't get too much into it because it's long, but there's talking about D'Lo like berating Rudy in the locker room around the press. So that's not good either. Hopefully better for both parties. D'Lo gets the big spot in LA. Mike Conley hopefully works better with Rudy, lets Ant, be the number one guy, and we'll see what happens. I don't know if we got better or worse, but
We'll have time to see, I guess.
yeah, well, I mean, I think overall I think D'Lo's the better player, but I think long term this probably was the right move.
Yeah, the way I've been looking at it, and of course the way I've been telling people, because a lot of people ask me, and I say, well, I don't really have a Timberwolves podcast anymore, but I still try to watch the team and stuff. But the way I see it is when we had our full team with Cat, Gobert, D'Lo, and Ant, our team looked better when we had J Mac running the point guard, which was weird. But when we had a pass first point guard who had low turnovers, like J Mac, who could find Gobert on the pick and roll, we were better, especially with Cat. And ultimately, we're trying to build a team around Cat and Ant and Gobert. So we need a point guard that's like J Mac, maybe just a little bit better. And I would say Mike Conley fits in that category. I think he's better than J Mac, but he's a point guard that does point guard things. He's a true point guard, one of the last of his kind. Just a true point guard, plays good D, passes first, runs a pick and roll. So yeah, I think if we're going to try to maximize this team when we get Cat back, we've already seen Ant has just been playing amazing without Cat. So I don't know. I think the max of this team, its ceiling, is going to be with a guy like Mike Conley, preferably someone a little younger. But I don't know, and he's proven with Gobert, who we literally spent our whole franchise's future on. So I think we're going to be better. I think this is how our team is going to click. D'Lo, as good as he was playing this year, he just didn't really seem to fit the team. Something was off when he was playing. And especially if he didn't want to stick around and if there was that animosity in the locker room, I think it's good just to get him out of here and not have to wait for him to leave in free agency.
Yeah, and I mean, D'Angelo obviously was having possibly his best career season, and that really helped this team just at least be in the hunt. I mean, that if we're being honest, the second to 13th seed in the West is very tight right now. I think it's within 4 games, which is, or maybe 3 through 13 is within 4 games of each other, which is absolutely insane. So I think, D'Lo had a big part in keeping the ship together when, especially, Ant's still young and he had a couple games there where he was off, but I think Anthony Edwards has taken that step this year. He's taken the 3rd-year leap. He's an all-star, which is awesome too.
Mhm.
Great.
Kind of an
A
all-star.
reserve. He's what D'Lo was. He's what
Okay.
D'Lo's
Okay.
only one
Okay.
was. So I mean, all-star now. Hand him the keys a little bit more. And I think Mike Conley is 35, but he's also no scrub. I mean,
No.
he went to an all-star game in his year 33 season 3 years ago, or 2.5 years removed. So, I mean, he's still playing at a high level. He's not the, as D'Lo would describe himself, the alpha guy. He's okay, sacrificing the points for the assists and the low turnovers, which
True point
Conley has
guard, man.
been very good at. So I think I don't know, man. I think it's gonna help the team, and I think the part of the equation that doesn't get talked about enough, like, yeah, we're in the 9th seed right now, and that's a little worse than expectations, but we're missing our arguably best player on the team for 2 months now. So when you get Cat back, I mean, what does that lineup look like? And Peyton and I, before we went on our hiatus, were very adamant about patience, and we said this team would take at least a year. I think we said to
At
click.
least.
And
At least.
it's easy when you're in the moment to kind of react get those reactions of being really mad at the team when a game doesn't go your way, but like we were saying, it's going to take this crew a year to get acclimated, and especially last game playing a good, I mean, the Grizzlies are a great team, and you can't go in there and expect Conley just to fit right in the day he gets traded and go win the game. So I mean, these things take time. This season's kind of like let's get Cat healthy, get Rudy a little bit more acclimated, let Ant keep growing. Whatever happens in the playoffs happens this season. I think after a full off season with this crew, I'm really excited for next year. I think this team can do some things.
So I got a question for you. So the Jazz last year were the 4th seed, led by, if I'm not mistaken, they were led by Gobert and Conley.
Mm-hmm.
Did they have another player that was notable, really?
I mean, see, this is where we can get into the comparisons of last year's Jazz team, who was
That's
number
what I,
one ranked
that's
offensively.
what I'm saying. Like
They had
we are the Jazz, but we have Ant and Cat, who are two
yeah.
all-star level players.
And to get into some comparisons here, you have that starting lineup on the Jazz consisted of, I think, Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley,
Mm.
Gobert,
Oh, they had
Ingles,
Donovan Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell,
Okay,
Royce O'Neal. So
okay,
if you
I
go
forgot
through
about
the
him.
go through the Timberwolves starting lineup right now, Mike Conley the same, Gobert the same, Donovan Mitchell and Ant, you can
Similar.
make the argument they're very similar players. Ant for sure is a better defender in this stage of his career already. He's a better on-ball defender. I mean, I think Ant has the potential to make an all-defensive team, possibly this year, for sure
Hmm.
next year.
For sure.
That's a very similar comparison. And Ant even has a higher ceiling. He's shown in the playoffs he can play. Royce O'Neal and Jaden McDaniels, two defensive 3-and-D specialists who have a little bit more offensive roles that they can kind of achieve here. So we'll see. That's a comparison there. And then Cat and Bojan Bogdanovic, man.
That does,
Bogdanovic is a 20 point per game scorer. People forget about that.
yeah.
Offensive weapon. You have Cat as the offensive weapon at the 4. And you have Rudy holding the fort down at the 5. It's a parallel of last year's number 1 offensive team in the NBA. That cannot be a mistake that this team is constructed so similarly to that
No.
team.
Yeah, that's not a bad team to be compared to at all.
And we'll have to see what the defense is like in the playoffs, because that Mavericks Jazz series is infamous for exposing
Gobert.
Rudy Gobert as a playoff defender. So we'll have to see how that goes. But that kind of segues me into the next topic I want to talk about here too, and that's Rudy Gobert, because I think people have been on Rudy's ass, have been on Tim Connolly's ass, have this is being like conducted as the worst trade. Like it's being portrayed as one of the worst trades in NBA
Well,
history. And
especially after the KD stuff went down.
yeah, but I have an argument for that too, because like mid-season trades are obviously going to garner less than a trade that can be conducted over months in the offseason. So I'm not too. I mean, would I've rather had Gobert, whatever, rather had KD than Gobert? Possibly. Yes.
Possibly. Come on.
100% yes. But like Gobert's had a pretty decent season. He's been a little bit down defensively, but you look at some of these games and he is a mammoth rebounder. He is a like remember last year when we could not grab a rebound against the Memphis Grizzlies? We dominated the boards last game against the Grizzlies,
Yeah.
especially because of Gobert. So I mean, we've improved in rebounding. We've definitely improved in defense, even though I think Rudy's having a little bit of a down year defensively. We've improved defensively. I think the pieces just need to start to work together a little bit better. We just need a little bit more cohesion.
Yeah, and we got rid of a player that maybe ruined that cohesion a little bit in D'Lo. We won't get too into that, but and also yeah, Gobert is just doing Gobert. He's doing exactly what we expected him to do. It's kind of unfair to judge him like he was supposed to come in here and be like a scoring and like huge numbers guy because that's not what Rudy Gobert is. He's never been that. He's been a very good role player, a superstar role player. And that's why we got him. And we might have paid a lot for him, and we might be seeing what we paid for him flourish in other places. But at the end of the day, we traded for Rudy Gobert and we got Rudy Gobert. Exactly what we're expecting. So there shouldn't, if you're mad about how he's been playing this season, then you should have been mad right at the beginning of the season because he's doing exactly what he was supposed to do.
I
So,
think too, like the Rudy Gobert trade package looks large, I think, because of the draft pick capital we had to get him. But the thing is we didn't really give any players to
no,
get Rudy. Like we gave up Pat Bev, who was on a 1 year. We gave
who's
up
already gone
Vanderbilt.
from his team.
Yeah,
Like,
Pat
they're
Bev
all
was.
gone.
Yeah, I mean Malik, like Vando's the only one I think that had some value in that trade, that potentially had protected first round value in that trade. And you look at the KD trade, which people are using as a parallel here, and that was 4 first round picks, a pick swap, McCall Bridges and Cam Johnson, right? And
Yeah, those guys have killed the Wolves.
yeah,
Those two
and
guys.
I forgot the team who someone offered 4 first round picks for McCall Bridges from the Nets. So I mean, that would have been what 8 first round picks and Cam. And Cam's a really good 3-and-D guy too. He would have garnered 1 or 2 first round picks. So I mean,
Yeah, it's
that
not
that
nothing.
Brooklyn deal was a massive deal. McCall Bridges is I will die on this. He is the best quote unquote role player in the league. He is an unreal defender. He was a first team All NBA defender, and he's a 40% 3-point shooter, 16 points per game. I mean, he is
He's
the
elite.
guy that leads a championship team. So that was we did give up a lot for Rudy, though, I think is the point that does have to be made. But
Yes,
the trades are a lot more.
and
The
it's also
Suns gave up more for KD than we
yes,
gave up for Rudy.
rightfully so. Katie's a better player, and it's really the hard part for me, which kind of flipped me. I was always pro Gobert, pro trade. Like I was like, it's a good trade. Like I'm happy to have Gobert. When Walker Kessler put up 20 and 20 against us, that was really. I think that's when we quit the podcast. Almost at that time, I was like, that was just
He's a
like,
good player, man.
yes,
He's a
he
good
is
player.
really good. But yes, at the end of the day, last year when we'd play a team like the Pelicans and they had Steven Adams, they would kill us because Cat couldn't guard Steven Adams. Steven Adams would get a bucket. He'd get easy buckets. He'd get easy rebounds. But now when you have a guy like Gobert, he takes Steven Adams out of the game. So
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
yeah,
it, we what did we get? We got 12 or 13 games, I think, with the Cat Gobert sample size, and I like Rudy's first game was amazing. I don't know if anyone remembers that. I think he scored 24 and had like almost 20 rebounds. Like the Gobert and Cat thing, I think is so slept on because Cat has been injured. I'm
hmm
really high, on this team still, just because we're 30 and 29 or whatever we are. I don't know, what are we? 30.
no idea.
We're one game above 500. I know that. But we've been missing an all NBA talent.
Yeah,
We've been
our best
missing our
player,
best player at this point.
our
So I
proven
mean,
best player. He's proven to be our best player over the last however many years. He's been our best player.
so I know the 1 through 4 seed was the goal this year, but
It's still a possibility.
it's the West is close. And even if we do make a 6 through a 10 seed, I think we can get out of the play-in again. And I I don't really fear too many Western Conference teams this year.
Mm,
Like I'm the
I mean,
fear
the
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 Suns
Mav.
got the Suns are great. The Suns are going to be a really good team. They're going to be favorites. But I mean, I would love the Memphis Grizzlies again in a 7 game
Hell
series.
yeah,
I
bro.
really think this team can beat them. I really do. I think last year's team could beat them.
I think that this team. I'm more confident in this team going into a 7 game series than I would be if we would have kept last year's team. And even if we were a higher seed last year, if we kept last year's team and we're like a 5 or 4 seed going into this year, and then this year we're a 7, 8 seed, I think I'd still be more confident with this team this year.
I mean,
It's
people
just
people got to realize last year's team had a ceiling too. It's not like this team was going to improve so drastically with more chemistry in another offseason with no additions. I
no.
think like the ceiling for last year's team this season, I think, is about the same. I think we'd be at about kind of the same points, like fighting for a play-in spot or fighting for a playoff spot or being in the play-in. I think Tim Connolly made some good additions, in the offseason without talking about the Rudy Gobert trade. Kyle Anderson's, I think, a
Been in
top 10, 100% a top 10 free agents, probably top 5 free agency signing in the NBA. He has legit been the straw that stirs the drink in this Timberwolves offense. He's been unreal, unreal. Josh Minot has looked good as a second
yes,
round draft pick. I
yes.
think he had that 13-11 game against the was it the Nuggets? No,
I don't know.
it was a couple games ago, but
Yeah.
Minot looks to be a decent pick. Luca Garza was a great G League prospect. He's the G League MVP at this point.
Yeah.
He looks really good on offense. They've done some things. I think they've Austin Rivers has been a plus signing in my opinion too. I think he's been a decent he's kind of made up a little bit of the Pat Bev vacancy. I think doing a little bit for us on the perimeter, defense side of things. Bryn Forbes was a miss. I mean, we released
He
him,
was
but
horrible. Yeah.
I don't think I think this team did get better from last
Yeah.
season to this season. So I think that needs to be said. I think Tim Connolly needs I don't know if he needs credit at this point because we haven't seen this team do much yet, but he
I think
hasn't messed it up.
I think pre All-Star break, if we haven't had the All-Star break, right? I mean, right?
Not yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say. But pre All-Star break, I think we're in a pretty good position. And if we can go on a run like we did last year after the All-Star break,
That's
like
right.
we could potentially be a top 4 seed in the West. Like that's not out of the picture here. And another
It's
point I
not.
want to bring up is Mike Conley might be old, but he is the epitome of a true point guard. If it works with Mike Conley, then I think we go all out and try to get a younger version of Mike Conley, like a Tyus Jones, Monte Morris, that type of player. And I think that's what would make this team complete. But I think it's a good experiment to get a true point guard like Mike Conley, see how it works. And if that's what we needed, then I say we go with whatever cap space we have left. We go out and get a young version of Mike Conley.
Yeah, and since we're over the cap line right now, we'll have a mid-level exception next year, which can be up to $10 million a year. So I mean, I here's another question to pose to you though. So you kind of have the thing with the really ball dominant guards that's worked in the past. I mean, yeah, you have the James Harden, you have the Luka Doncic. Do you think I mean, LeBron's just a complete exception to that rule too, but do you think Ant, because we've seen Ant in small sample sizes at that point forward position, like do the 31 points, 7 assists, 8 rebounds type
Yeah.
thing. Do you think he has it in him consistently, and do you think he can have that high of a usage rate all the time, or would you want a Mike Conley? What's
My
your
problem with Ant is he doesn't get Gobert going. He's struggled in the pick and roll with Gobert. If he could add that to his game and then figure out how he's just not a facilitator yet. He's okay. He's better
he's
than he
gotten
was.
better. He has gotten
He's
better.
gotten better for sure. but like a true facilitator, I think is the only way that you can get that many guys involved is with a true facilitator. And I mean, if Ant can become a true facilitator, I don't know if that's where he'd be best though. I don't know. I'm really curious to see how this will work. We
It's an interesting fit because I think like the pre-draft like comp to like the D Wade comp I think is very like what like we've been doing this thing has been going on since like three we covered the Ant draft, like that was our first like big like podcast into basketball, starting to cover it a little bit. That was like 2.5 years ago, and Anthony Edwards comp was D Wade, and I think
it's pretty
it's
spot
kind
on.
of like
Yeah.
a D Wade at this point in his career was a definitely a better. I mean, D Wade's one of the best two-way players all time. Great defender, but I mean, Ant already has a better 3-point shot. I think Ant is more physically gifted than Dwayne Wade. Better driver of the ball. I mean, they're pretty similar. D Wade was crazy too.
Ant might
Ant's
be a
worked
better shooter, a better
Ant's
three
worked on
point
the mid
shooter.
range. Ant has worked on the mid range. He's been shooting. Me and Peyton used to freaking hate when he'd take those two,
Yeah,
but now he's
yeah,
been hitting them.
yeah.
It's an interesting comparison. So maybe he does work better at that two guard spot, and
I
it
think
just
so.
allows him to defend more, and he's still going to have the ball most of the time, but just having that distributor, I think, is an important piece too.
I think it's gonna be it's gonna be just amazing to see because there's like out of the point guards in the league that I think would work best with out of anyone. Like, I mean, whoever's going to be able to figure out how to get that many weapons going, as an Ant, Cat, and Gobert at the same time, it needs to be someone who just, really understands the game. And out of the, like, Chris Paul, I think would probably be the best fit.
There
But
was
other
talks
than
about
there
there was
was,
talks
and
of
I
a
was
D'Lo Chris Paul swap.
very excited about that. Chris Paul, maybe like Lonzo Ball, I think could be a really
Oh,
good fit.
yes, I like that a lot.
Lonzo Ball would be great because he brings that defensive side of it. But other than that, like Mike Conley's right up there with like a true point guard. And I don't know. I think if anyone can do it, it's going to be Mike Conley.
I think you're right, man. It's just really rare nowadays to find like the two-way pass first 3-point shooting point guard. Like it's hard to find all those qualities. The distribute first, but has a good 3-point shot
Yes.
and is a good defender. It's as Austin Rivers was saying. I don't know if you heard about like he was talking about like kids and mixtapes nowadays and the style of play they play. It's completely different. You don't have a lot of those types of point guards anymore. So I think it is super like Drew Holiday is one of my favorite point
Yes.
guards just because of
Yes.
like he plays his role so well in Milwaukee. He is the best one defender I think in the league, point of attack defender for sure. He can shoot the three, but he's just a savant he's just a basketball savant. He knows how to play the game.
The
So
right way.
I
And
just
another way to
so
look,
does Conley though. So
yes, another way to look at it is like you're saying, like the game has changed, but the Wolves are going back to the old fashioned way. We have two bigs right now. So we need to go backwards, old fashioned. We need an old fashioned point guard. And yeah, I think Mike Conley's the guy. And Chris, again, we're talking about being cheap. We only have the 40 minutes. I think we only got about two minutes left here. So what are your closing thoughts here? And can the people expect us to be back at any point, or is this kind of a one and done? Or I don't know.
No, I mean closing thoughts. I always enjoy talking about Timberwolves basketball with Peyton. That's one of my
Yes.
favorite things to do. It's just oftentimes Peyton and I's schedule, especially now being a little bit older, takes priority over something that doesn't make us money, but would be
Enjoy it.
cool if it did. Yeah, we enjoy
Yeah.
doing
Oh
it.
yeah.
So I hope we'll be back maybe in a week from now.
I would
But
love.
I wouldn't tell the crowd to expect anything at this point because we haven't proved to you yet. So
No.
I would love to be back in a week though, is my closing thoughts.
We
And I
actually have
hope the
9 minutes. We have 9 minutes and 27
oh
seconds. Yeah,
perfect.
we got
I
some time.
think the All-Star break is coming up, so it's again a bad time to start getting back into it because it's going to be a few days off. But hopefully Ant does great in the All-Star game too. I love to talk about that. He says he wants to win All-Star game MVP, so I think
Yeah.
he go
Yeah,
after
dude.
that.
I've really missed it, but at the same time, it was a really good break for me. I think that end of last semester with school, I got really overwhelmed. Especially I was doing a job, I was doing the media for the football team. I was very overwhelmed, and like this was kind of like it turned into a chore, not a chore, but something that I didn't enjoy as much because it was like shit, we got to do that.
Gotta do
Like,
that.
yeah. But now I have a lot more free time, and today I was like, shit, I want to talk to Chris. I want to talk to the Chris about the Wolves. Like, I'm excited to talk about it, and that's what this was in the
Grand scheme
beginning.
of things.
It was just for fun. It was just fun talking, two best friends talking about something they both enjoy, and people enjoyed that. And I think the reason why we weren't getting as much, recognition, or it wasn't doing as well is because it wasn't as natural, it wasn't as fun. But I think, yeah, I think this semester is going to be a lot more laid back. I think the Wolves are going to start doing better. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm excited
I
to
mean,
start watching the Wolves again and just get more excited about this.
some of the funnest times of my life, I think, were last year during the postseason. Like that was like the pinnacle of my sports watching career. I think like the Twins suck ass, but it's
Yeah.
gonna be fun with baseball season coming up too. But Twins suck. The Bears have always sucked my entire life. The Wolves have always sucked my entire life. So it was kind of cool to see our team do well. It was awesome to get to go to the games too. That made it so much
Yeah.
fun.
And we were
So I
so
hope
invested too.
yeah, I hope the Wolves can do something like that, and if they do something like that again, I love talking about that. So I hope they make that second half run like they did last year. I think maybe they can make the 6th seed. That'd be awesome. I would go to a playoff game again. I don't Peyton and I
I
always
think,
do that stuff. So I mean,
yeah.
yeah, let's let the Wolves be good again. We'll get Cat back. We'll get back into it. But yeah, it's definitely been enjoyable.
Yeah. As a whole, I've loved doing this. I don't know what this is going to be called. Um, I think we've changed names a lot of times. We've done the rebrands. It honestly just confuses everyone. It confuses us. Uh, so I think simpler is better. That's why I got just the FaceTime camera, no green screen. It's just simple talking. Just get straight to the point, and makes it easier, makes it more fun. But yeah, man, I think this went well.
Yeah, we got a game tonight against the
Do we?
Mavericks at 7:30. Yeah, we'll get to
Oh,
see the second game of Luca and
Kyrie.
Kyrie together. So
I
that'll
love
be
Kyrie, dude. Was he not number two in Brooklyn?
no, he was number 11 and now
See,
he's
he
going back to number
he
2.
looks way better at number two. It looks way more natural. Like
Yeah,
Kyrie,
like I get all like the Kyrie like Kyrie as a person is different than Kyrie. Kyrie as a basketball player, I promise you guys, is one of the most talented players that has ever
ever,
played this game.
ever. It's kind of
It's
like the
almost
argument,
disrespect. It's disrespect to get him for what they get him for a first round pick, and
something crazy. It's kind of like, I hate to say it. So this might get, but like, people say separate the art from the artist.
it's all tied into one.
In
There
regard,
can't
no,
be any
well,
Kyrie.
in regard to like Kanye, like people say
Yeah,
like you can still enjoy Kanye's music, but you don't have to support him as a person and all that stuff. I mean, in a way, Kyrie's basketball is his art,
100%.
and
That guy
he's
is a phenomenal player. People don't understand how good of a basketball player he
yeah,
is.
and he looks like he's having a great time. Luca looks like he's having a great time. It sucks to be in the West and have that team coming and
Uh,
have the Suns. Eesh.
like just two players, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving coming to the West is like those are like two of the greatest players of our generation coming to
Yes,
the West again. So it's gonna be difficult.
it at least
The
it
Mavs
drops
are gonna be good.
at least it
Suns are
drops
gonna be
Jaw
great.
down a little bit, which is nice. I hate to see his confidence so high. I still can't stand John Morant at all.
Fuck. We need a playoff series against them again.
Yes,
That
yes,
would be amazing.
yes, sir. All right, we'll sign off here, guys. Make sure to leave your comments. Give Chris some support here. Give me some support. Anything you want to say?
Go support PWR Productions. See some of the work Peyton's been working on in
For
the
sure.
off season of Timberwolves talks. So
During my hiatus.
yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys later.